Hey everybody, I'm Colin Tessier of WrestleZone.com, and I'm very honored to be joined by the Mecca himself, Brian Johnson. Brian, how are you doing today?
Doing fantastic, Colin. Pleasure's all yours.
That it is, Brian. I want to make sure I maximize my minutes with you. And speaking of maximizing minutes, I think that you've done a really tremendous job of really capitalizing on this opportunity you've gotten on a weekly basis since Ring of Honor returned in the fall. And you've been my pick for the MVP of the weekly show. I mean, whether it's on commentary during the holiday tag team match, your match with Dalton Castle, you faced Dak Draper. You've been just really just a standout player, and I think it's long overdue. A lot of people may not know this, but you've been wrestling for about what 13 years now, and now you've
Yeah, I
gotten this great
started training
opportunity.
in I started training in 2006.
That's fantastic. And now here you are getting the chance again, long overdue. But how's it feel to really be getting this opportunity to be in a ring with a guy like Dalton Castle and to be on a a pretty prestigious TV show on a weekly basis?
It's expected. Um, Maybe that sounds wrong or rude or not the words people are going to say because everyone should be respectful and it's such a privilege. No, I should have been there years ago, and it's bullshit that I haven't been.
Would you say
Um,
that's giving you a chip on your shoulder, and then that's kind of pushed you to even more to succeed?
yeah, I think so. I think in any successful athlete, whether you consider me successful or not, depending on where I'm at right now, I'm on a little bit of a momentum kick, maybe, right? It's when they figure out who they are and they're able to make that the best version of themselves. And I've been able to tap into some real anger because it's true. I am pissed off. I think that wrestling in the last, 14 years has changed so much, and not necessarily always for the good. And maybe in ways that passed me by, but it wasn't passed me by. I just don't think I had a light to spotlight it. And now that Ring of Honor is giving me that chance, I'm taking the ball and running it down their goddamn throat.
You certainly are. And Ring of Honor has been in the news lately. They've been locking up a lot of talent, yourself included. What kind of
Mm-hmm.
went into your decision to stay with Ring of Honor? What drew you to stay there, and what do you hope to, I guess, achieve there now that you're kind of locked in and ready to go all out for Ring of Honor?
Listen, I'm the first one to poke fun at somebody on our roster, but I would be lying if I didn't tell you that deep down inside my heart, I truly believe we have the most talented roster top to bottom. If you watch one of our pay-per-views compared to any other pay-per-view in professional wrestling, we're giving you different things in different matches, guys of sizes doing things you can't expect, high flyers, grappling, badasses, you name it, we got it. And it's only just what's in store. I think the pandemic made a lot of adaptations to excuse me. I think the pandemic calls for a lot of adaptations in pro wrestling. And each company did theirs. Well, guess what? We're doing it the best. And if anyone disagrees with me, I think they're wrong and they can get bent. So the reason I stayed is because I think it's the best damn company there is to be with. It's the pride, the best wrestling, the best talent. And there's no other way I can consider myself the best without hanging with them.
It's hard to disagree with that. And I definitely agree that Ring of Honor has been pretty exemplary in how it's handled the pandemic and in terms of its safety measures and everything. And you mentioned, how it often presents these different matches, different things on a pay-per-view. And one thing that comes to mind for me is your match with Danhausen in the Final Battle. That was one that
That
I
piece of
really
shit.
liked.
Sorry. I don't know if I can curse on here, but
No
go ahead.
worries.
Go ahead, pal.
But I just wanted to kind of get your milestone on that. It was definitely a unique presentation, and especially Ring of Honor, this company that's kind of known for the pure wrestling, the real athletic competition. You're in there, you're grabbing the microphone, you're going off, and you're literally just kind of, I guess that was kind of like this microcosm of the Brian Johnson experience of 2020, where you're kind of taking the spotlight, you're taking the microphone in that match, and you're really saying like, I'm here, I'm the wrestler, I deserve this, and Danhausen doesn't. But if now that we're a couple weeks removed from it, can you reflect on that match? And you walked away. I believe Danhausen won via disqualification. Is that something you want to? Would you want to get a rematch and kind of actually get a real victory over him, or what?
Well, anyone who watched the match, whether they have four eyes like you, or eight eyes, or 10 eyes, or there's some other bozo, they saw I had him beat 1, 2, 3, clear as day. I pinned his shoulders to the mat. But unfortunately, our refs have all graduated from the school of the blind and somehow are graduated up to be a referee on Final Battle pay-per-view. So since I was cheated out of it, of course I want a rematch. And then, keep watching Ring of Honor television, because I bet you if they don't listen to me soon, I'm going to force them to give me a rematch with Danhausen. So I'm not sure when this podcast is coming out, but I'd keep your eyes on it because it's only fair. I had him beat. And, how do I feel about him? I can sit here and poke fun at internet fans, but I'm doing an internet podcast, right? So like, oh, that's all holly jolly. But no, I'm not poking fun. I legitimately can't stand him and everything his bullshit represents. Looking at your producer, looks like he's watched wrestling for a while. He understands what actual wrestling is. I'm not sure about you. You look a little younger. I'm sure you cater to his nonsense because he pays for a Halloween costume and people think he tries hard because he does a couple drives here and there on the weekends. They think he deserves a spot at Ring of Honor, a place where Daniel Bryan and Nigel McGuinness and all. He's a jackass. And I'm insulted that I was having my first final battle match with him, to be honest with you.
Fair enough. Now, I might be on the younger side, but I will say I've really admired your old school aesthetic and your skills, and kind of you feel like a modern throwback in that sense. And one match that really stood out to me was when you stepped into the ring with Dalton Castle, former world champion, and I think you shocked a lot of people in that match. Now you've been pretty clear that this is your opportunity, you deserve it, it's long overdue. But in a match with Dalton Castle, I think, I mean, I will, based on your performances up to that point, I expected you to do pretty darn well. But you almost had that match like won. You were maybe seconds away, but ultimately you couldn't clinch up the victory. But would you say that you may have learned your lesson, I guess, for lack of a better word, for kind of confronting someone of that caliber, or did it make you more hungry to kind of continue facing former world champions like that?
Yeah, next time I throw water in their face, I'll slap them too. That's what I learned. I mean,
who's next on
I
your
guess
list?
the lesson was learned. I hung with one of the very best wrestlers in the world. To be Ring of Honor world champion means at one time people thought he was the best wrestler in the world. And I didn't just hang with him, I damn near beat his ass. And no one expected me to. I get it. That's the rap, right? Oh, it's Brian Johnson. He's not going to win this. But I took him to the limit. So if I have to keep opening eyes by plucking some feathers, so be it. The only thing I learned is that next time I throw the water, I should slap him right away too.
Fair enough. Now, who you kind of gotten Dalton Castle's face? Is there someone else that's kind of on your list? Someone you want to step in the ring with, kind of on that level? So, the Ring of Honor's got plenty of stars. But beyond Dalton Castle, they've got the Foundation. You've got even Bruce, the world champion. There are any number of people you could kind of choose to go up against. But who do you have your eye on, if anybody?
Well, I usually stand against the list because usually it's just some desperate attempt for some jackass to try to get booked somewhere. So he makes a list and cries to all of his friends that he wants to wrestle his other friends online. And then they make the magic happen or whatever crap that goes into that. What I do is I make a living whooping people's asses. So my list is endless. But I mean, if I had to pick a few from Ring of Honor, hey, Dragon Lee and all of Mexico, you've been holding on to that television title for too long, Poppy, and you know I want it. I'm waiting for him. I'm begging for him. I think they're doing some stupid choose your honor thing on Facebook Messenger or Facebook groups. I don't know. I don't have Facebook because I have a life. But if you do, you go on there and you vote for me to win that. If it hasn't already closed, I was crushing everybody, obviously. Who else do I want to wrestle from? Who else I really can't stand? This is kind of weird. I don't even know if I want to wrestle him. I just don't really care for him. Mike Bennett. I don't know if you guys have ever spoke to him. One of the least likable guys I've had the unfortunate meeting. Not a fan. That's all. Other than that, everybody else is pretty much equal jackass, depending the day or way the wind's blowing.
All right. Now you mentioned potentially challenging Dragon Lee for his Ring of Honor World Television Championship. Do you have your eyes on the Pure Championship, or what do you see yourself kind of going after? Kind of now that we're in 2021, it's a new year. What's your New Year's resolution when it comes to succeeding Ring of Honor in 2021?
Well, I guess the resolution is a change you plan on making, and I definitely ain't changing my attitude. Apparently, that's what everybody else wants me to change. But you know what? I'm going to change my win-loss record because it hasn't been admirable. I'm not going to lie. Things haven't gone my way. Yeah, this attitude's great, and people are looking at me, but they're looking at me pile up losses, and that's no fun. I wouldn't want to be on the New York Jets, but I'd want to be a football player. You know what I mean?
It's fair. Now, yeah, a lot of people, maybe not myself, but I saw the narrative around your match with Dalton Castle. It looked like as I said, you had that match won. You were about to pin the former world champion, but in some ways, some people may have thought that you kind of let your attitude or kind of your emotions get the best of you, and that may have been your downfall. Is that one way that you could see yourself kind of turning some of these losses into victories, or what do you think's missing in these matches that's leading to these defeats, and how do you plan to turn it around?
When you say some people, I assume mean pundits like yourself that have podcasts that discuss wrestling.
In theory.
If I started listening to you jackasses, I would never win a match in my life. I wouldn't be able to tie my boots, chew bubble gum, and breathe at the same time. I'd trip over my two left feet and have no talent whatsoever if I started listening to you guys. So what do I think when you guys say that? I don't think about it because I don't give a shit.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. One thing I find pretty interesting is that when I first was introduced to watching you, you were coming up kind of as one of the top prospects, and you refer to yourself as number one Brian Johnson. Now it's the Mecca Brian Johnson. Now,
Yep.
to me, that kind of reflects this nature of, kind of as your saying goes, Mecca versus everybody. But last year and even before that, we saw you kind of team up with PJ Black, get mentioned by PJ Black. But we're kind of a couple months removed from kind of the height of that now. So could you reflect on what you learned from the Dare Wolf and what that experience was like? And was it something you look back on fondly, or is it something you're kind of glad to be moving away from?
So I believe you started with number one, and I thankfully have left that in the past. When I went to the dojo system, and I was the best wrestler at the dojo, bar none. I was number one. So I strutted and did everything that I thought a pro wrestler had to do. And I realized, yeah, I was doing it, but I was doing what I thought a wrestler should do, not what I naturally would do. And it wasn't until I got out and spread my wings. I traveled the world. I was in Mexico. I was in Canada. And I really honed my craft and realized that just because I thought I was number one, you got to go grab greatness by the throat. And that's what the Mecca's all about. It's getting everybody to focus their attention on me where it belongs. For so long, I thought it would be through this mirror or this flashy robe. No, it's through kicking people's ass. And if they don't remember, you stomp a mud hole in them until they realize that you are what you say you are. Now, with regards to PJ Black, I'll be the first guy to admit my win-loss record ain't great. I can understand that. And a lot of my losses come from being angry. Unfortunately, I'd argue a lot of my mistakes in my real life have come from anger issues. And it's stuff that maybe I need to work on. But PJ is able to see past that, and that's something that I'll appreciate. He's a veteran that's traveled to more countries than I can even count. He's been involved in wrestling almost as long as I've been alive, and he calls me a future world champion. If he doesn't realize I appreciate that, then there's no other way I can say it than as I just did. But do I look back on it and wish for it to us have been tag team champions and best friends? No, he still annoys the hell out of me with all of his breathing techniques and his yoga exercises and external bullshit. Me and PJ Black were not peanut butter and jelly. We're the opposite. So while I appreciate the time with him because he got eyes on me, I think everyone can tell that this locomotive's left the station and this Mecca locomotive's on the rise. Now, if PJ comes back and he wants to carry my bags or maybe take a check in my corner, that's okay. I understand because he's going to need help back from a gruesome injury. But sorry, pal, this is a one-way train that ain't turning back.
All right. Now, this guy, I asked about the number one Brian Johnson versus the Mecca, but one thing that I've been curious about, like especially since the Ring of Honor restart, where did why the Mecca? I mean, sometimes the nickname can be everything, or the moniker can be everything. The moniker can make the man. What? And you describe what the Mecca means, and I really appreciate that. But why the Mecca? Literally that term, because I think
that term, I believe, if you were to go read a dictionary Poindexter, it would tell you something like it's a place to worship. It's where everyone gathers, right? Well, when you talk about one human being that everyone should be gathering around when it comes to pro wrestling, it's Brian Johnson. And this whole Meccade, get it? This whole Meccade of excellence I'm about to put on is going to prove that I am the Mecca of pro wrestling, the guy on which it centers around and should be centered around. And if people ain't watching me, they ain't watching the best.
Good point. Good point.
I know it is.
I guess last question here is that I've gotten familiar with your work with Ring of Honor by watching it. You've been able to be featured so consistently, which has been a really pleasant surprise because I've really appreciated getting to see you pretty much week after week. But for a lot of people, you're still kind of one of the more unheralded or like kind of unknown quantities in Ring of Honor, what would you say sets you apart from the rest of the roster? You said yourself it's really filled with so much talent, but what makes the Mecca Brian Johnson, different, or even if you might say superior than the rest of them?
You know, I think there's a lot of guys that love pro wrestling, and there's a lot of guys that would sacrifice for it and have made tons of sacrifices. But it's this unexplainable X factor that comes to me when I'm in that ring. I've loved this since the day I've lived, since the day I can remember. And I honestly, be honest with you, the day I'll stop loving is going to be the day that my heart stops beating. I have lived my entire life to have this opportunity. So maybe it's the desperation in me as my first and biggest opportunity that I ain't going to let it slip through. Or maybe it's my determination or relentlessness. But it could also be my tenacity. And I'll be honest with you, this newfound attitude of, instead of my head in the crowds, my head's screwed on tight, straight and narrow, looking down one path, and that path's my path. And ever since I realized I can't rely on any other jackasses, and it's all about me versus everybody, I've been on the hottest run of my career. Once I start piling some W's up, and I will, it's sky's the limit.
That it is. Well, everybody, you heard it here himself. The Mecca Brian Johnson has graced us with his presence. I know I really appreciate it. If you want to see more Brian Johnson, you can check out Ring of Honor Wrestling every week, and plenty of his matches are on Honor Club and Fight TV, and pretty much wherever you find Ring of Honor, you'll find some Brian Johnson matches. Can't recommend it enough, Brian. I really think you're going places, and I know that you're going to prove exactly why 2021 is the first year of the Meccade, and I can't wait to see it. Thank you so much, Brian.
Yeah, no problem. It was all your pleasure to have me on here. It'll probably be your highest ratings. If people want to follow me and hear more of my great takes on like Matt Taven's terrible hairdo or how terrible the bouncers smell, you can check me out at BJO_Mecca, MECCA. That's both on Twitter and Instagram. I will be gracing you with my great takes and nonstop truth that comes from me. So you probably will hate it if you're a wrestling fan.
All right. Check it out, everybody. Thank you so much, Brian. Really appreciate it.
No problem, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.